We sleep in 90-minute cycle, and at the end of each cycle, we wake up. Sleep is a very active state. Is like our brain is more active than we are. There are some stages where it's more active than when we are awake. Tracking their sleep and focusing on numbers. How do I get 10 more minutes of REM sleep?
Welcome. I'm Ramita Matthew, and this is the Leading Question Show. A well-known sleep expert named Matthew Walker once said that practice does not make perfect. Practice followed by a good night of sleep makes perfect. Without sleep, our hard work is just noise. Without sleep, that save button never gets pressed. Joining with us today is a sleep coach, someone who's going to talk about the importance of sleep and how our best work isn't done when we are awake, it's cemented when we are asleep. Irina Mekare, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you for inviting me to your show.
Absolutely. So I want to start off this conversation by asking you what brought you to be a sleep coach. Was there a personal burnout that made you feel that sleep isn't just a biological function for you, it's more than that, and you need to add value into someone's life by teaching them how to sleep?
Yeah, as many people out there who are changing careers, I have my own sleep stories. My background, I'm an IT engineer, and I've been working in IT for 16 and a half years. And over this time, I have burnout multiple times, as you guessed well. I just pushed through with more coffee and willpower, and grit is like, I can do this. And as life progressed, I advanced in my career ladder, and I got to a point where it wasn't if I wake up in the middle of the night. So my sleep problem was like I was able to fall asleep, but around like 2, 3 a.m., I was waking up by the clock and couldn't fall asleep until like early morning where I had to wake up and to go to work. I still pushed, I still grind until I had a wake-up call when, because of poor reaction, I got into a car crash, and I was fine. Everything was fine, but it was lack of reaction that made me not see another car. And so that was my wake-up moment, literally and figuratively. So I realized that I have to do something. And I didn't want to go to the doctor because from my experience, I know that people who are having sleep problems, they get sleep meds. And I didn't want to take sleep meds. I knew that sleep meds are not the answer and are not okay. So I've been always passionate about health, personal development. So I started reading everything that I could from the Matthew Walker's book that you cited. Every book, every podcast, every article that I could find. And this is how I start my journey. And it wasn't like I fixed my sleep like right away. It took me years and a lot of trials and errors. But during this journey, because I was so passionate about it, I was talking with my colleagues at work, and some people were actually listening to me. And then like weeks later, they were coming back and saying, "Oh, Irina, I have listened to your advice and I feel so much better." So that feeling of helping someone was like, oh, I don't know how to describe, but it's a feeling that it's so rewarding. And fast forward, after moving to US and working in corporate America, and after 2 more burnouts, I started asking myself some existential questions like, what's my point of this earth? Like, what's my role? And I realized that writing code, it was not fulfilling my life. So I decided to transform my passion into a business, and I hired a business coach to learn how to do things. I actually got some sleep coaching certifications. So that was the beginning. And a year and a half ago, I quit my job, and I'm doing this like full time.
Okay. So you talked about some of the aspects which I want to delve into like deeper, waking up at 3 a.m, about burnouts and, not reacting at the right time because you didn't have the right time, to sleep. But before we get to that, I want to ask you, what is a good night's sleep for a working person? You have a family, you have your workouts getting in, you have your work that you do 8 hours. So what is a good night's sleep?
Well, a good night of sleep is not about how many hours or sleep quality. It's about
Really?
how you feel
Oh.
throughout the day, the next day. We can have some qualifiers to say for a recommendation, but basically it's like, how do you feel the next day? Do you feel rested? Do you feel yourself? And it's normal to have fluctuation in energy, but it's more like, how do you feel when you wake up and throughout the day? Because I have clients who are like obsessing with tracking sleep, and they wake up, feel fine, and then they go and check their sleep tracker, and the sleep tracker is saying is like, oh, you didn't sleep well, and then suddenly they don't feel well. So it's, instead of like looking at a sleep tracker, which you could if it doesn't affect you, it's more listening to the body. But as I was saying, there are some qualifiers. So it's not like 8 hours, it's a range between 7 and 9 hours. And it depends on the gender, it depends on age. It depends on what you did in a day. Your sleep needs can vary from day to day. Some day when you like worked and or you had a workout or you run a marathon, you might need more sleep than other days where you didn't have so much stress. So, and another qualifier that I would say is like to have a sleep that it's not fragmented. And I want to say that it's normal to wake up throughout the night. We sleep in 90-minute cycle, and at the end of each cycle, we wake up.
Oh, really?
But we fall back asleep immediately. If you wake up and you fall back asleep like in 5-10 minutes, that's totally fine. But if you wake up like 10 times, go to the bathroom, takes you like 30 minutes to fall back asleep, or an hour, that's a fragmented sleep. So ideal would be anything between 7 and 9 hours. Anything in between, it's fine. It doesn't necessarily have to be at a specific time. It's based on your body and your chronotype. And a chronotype is your biological predisposition of when you're asleep in the day. So they're night owls, they're early birds, and not everybody feels the need to sleep at the same time. So it's very important to sleep with in line with what your body wants. And consistency is the key. Going to bed and waking up at the same time, it will help you have a better sleep because it entrains your circadian rhythm. Our body has a rhythm that is in line with the day and night. And there are so many processes happening in our body, and they cannot happen all at once. We would not have enough energy to support all those processes. So they happen at different times, and there is like a central clock that is like the orchestra, like the conductor of an orchestra, and says like, you start here, you start there, you stop. So the central clock is the one who dictates the circadian rhythm.
So the central clock is my body saying how many hours of sleep I should get based on my daily activity?
Daily activities, and there is a genetic component as well. But also what you do throughout the day impacts the requirements of sleep, like how much sleep do you need in a day.
So you said going to bed at the same time and waking up. So
yes.
So my question is, say I am going to bed at 7 one night, and the next night I have some work and I'm going to bed at 11 in the night. And I'm still getting my 6 hours to 8 hours of sleep. Is that enough? Is that good?
If it happens only one day and like once in a while, it's not so bad. But if consistency, like what you do Monday to Sunday on a regular basis, it's what's important. So why is that? Because our body wants predictability. So when it knows what it's coming, it knows to prepare itself for that. like for sleep, because in order to sleep, there are so many things that has to happen. Like our core body temperature has to go down. We start secreting melatonin, cortisol goes down. So there's so many things that has to happen to allow sleep. So if our body knows that around 10 p.m. we go to bed, it starts preparing our body like ahead of time. So when we go to bed, it's in an optimal state to sleep.
So getting 8 hours of sleep a day is less important. It is what time you go to bed and getting that 8 hours of sleep that's more important. Because if
I would say yes, but that doesn't mean like sleeping for 6 hours constantly would be better than sleeping 8 hours. So it's not like a better. Let me give you an example, which happens for many people. Monday to Friday, they go to bed, let's say 11 p.m. and they wake up at 6 a.m. because they have to go to work. Saturday, they woke up at 10, 11 a.m.
Yeah, because it's the weekend. They want to sleep in, right?
So how do you feel when you travel from Seattle to New York? Tired, right? Yeah. And it's not only because you've traveled, it's because there is a time difference, which is the jet lag. Imagine doing that Friday to Saturday. So because you wake up at 10 a.m., it's like instead of like 6, it's 4-hour difference. It's almost like you fly from West Coast to the East Coast. And then on Sunday, you have to wake up again at 6 a.m. And Monday night, you go back to 11 p.m. to sleep, right? So there is this social jet lag. And we are putting our body like on this jet lag every week.
No way.
So my number one recommendation is to have a sleep schedule that you can keep it constant. Even if it is like 1 hour different, let's say you don't wake up at 6 a.m., you wake up at 7 a.m., but keep it as constant as possible. So that will give you a better night's sleep and a better health for your body. You're putting your body under so much stress when you're having like a different sleep schedule.
So can we talk about sleep debt? Okay. So you mentioned that Fridays you have a schedule, weekends we sleep in longer. Does that cause a sleep debt in me?
Mostly yes, because like each person has a different sleep requirement, right? A sleep need. And let's say that you're sleeping, you need 8 hours of sleep, but every Monday to Friday, you sleep 7 hours. So you accumulate like a 5-hour sleep debt. You sleep in over the weekend, but would you be able to sleep 5 hour more accumulated? So yes, maybe no. The other thing is that the quality of our sleep, it's different. So when in the first part of the night, we usually have more deep sleep. And in the second part of the night, we have more REM sleep. And the rest is like shallow sleep. When you're sleeping in, you don't get more deep sleep or more REM sleep. You are getting more shallow sleep. So basically, throughout the week, you might deprive yourself from deep sleep or from REM sleep, which are both very important for our health. But when you're recovering, you're not recovering the same type of sleep. So yes, you're overall paying a little bit of the sleep debt, but you're not having the same type of sleep in the weekend as the one that you're losing over the week.
So what would you recommend to someone who doesn't have a schedule? What is a good time to go to bed and what is a good time to wake up? And something that you can maintain throughout?
So it depends on your lifestyle. I would first look at the wake up time. So let's say you have to wake up at 6 a.m. How many hours of sleep do you need, like your body? And you have to experiment with that because there are some people who feel fine with 7 hours. There are some people who needs to sleep 9 hours. My last client, she was a long sleeper. She needed at least 9 hours to feel good. So you calculate the wake up time, and then you calculate, like, let's say 7 or 8 hours, and you will see what time you have to be asleep so that you get that the sleep that satisfies your need. And then you add like a 30 minutes time to go to bed and to fall asleep, because it takes a little bit of time, and that will give you your bedtime. So that's ideal sleep schedule. But if you cannot go to bed enough to give you like enough sleep because you have kids or you have 2 jobs or there are some constraints, at least try to go to bed constantly. I'm not saying that this is better than sleeping like 8 hours, but having a constant sleep schedule, it is better than having like a chaotic one. And think about the shift workers.
Yeah, the ones
shift
who
workers,
work at night,
they can sleep like, let's say if they have the capacity to sleep 8 hours, and they have shifts that vary, like one day, like few days of week, like they're the first shift, others the second shift, or so they have to sleep at different times. Even if they get their sleep, they're still not feeling well, fully rested. There is more predisposition to create cancer or any other like chronic diseases, because basically their circadian rhythm, and I'm going back to the circadian rhythm, it's affected and it's not functioning well.
Okay. So why do even those who sleep at night, why do we wake up at 3 in the morning? You mentioned that in the beginning of, can we get to that? Why do people wake up at 3? Because I do that sometimes.
Yes.
And I look at my phone and it takes me at least an hour and a half to go back to sleep.
Yes.
Why 3 a.m.?
There are so many reasons that we wake up in the middle of the night. So first of all, as I said earlier, it is normal to wake up throughout the night. So the problem is like why we're not falling back asleep immediately. To think from a biological perspective, when we are sleeping, there are two processes that are involved in sleep. The sleep pressure, which gives us hunger for sleep, like, and think about it as like with the hunger, like the food hunger. The bigger the time between meals, the more hungry you are.
Yeah.
It's the same with sleep. The more you are awake, the more sleep pressure you develop.
Oh.
And sleep pressure allows you to fall asleep faster and to be asleep to enter deeper stages of sleep. If you haven't built enough sleep pressure. So, and when we sleep, we release some of that sleep pressure.
Okay.
So if you went to bed like at 10, 11 and you wake up around 2 a.m., you had like at least 4 hours of sleep where you release some of the sleep pressure.
Okay.
And you wake up as part of like the end of the sleep cycle.
Okay.
But because you don't have enough sleep pressure left in the tank, it is hard to fall asleep. So one case, it might be that you didn't accumulate enough sleep pressure throughout the day. And how do we accumulate sleep pressure? It's by being active, by having enough time between wake up and time to bed. So if you went to bed if you wake up at 6 a.m., it will be easier for you to sleep at 10 p.m. than a person who wakes up at 9 a.m., right? Because you have more time between the wake up time and sleep time. Okay. Being active is whenever we are consuming energy, the energy that we are consuming, it's the one that it's creating sleep pressure.
Okay.
So it's basically, we have some receptors that binds to the molecule that sends the signal to the brain that we are accumulating.
It's time for you to sleep.
And when that happens, it's like there is no signal that we're like that molecule that cannot bind to that receptor.
Because coffee activates it, and
it has the same shape. So think is like this is the receptor, and this is like the molecule that accumulates for sleep pressure. And when it's here, and it's not in the bloodstream, says, "Oh, brain, we have sleep pressure." Caffeine has the same shape and binds to this receptor. Floats in the body, and there is no signal to the brain to say we have sleep pressure. And as we metabolize coffee, like those molecules are being removed from the receptor, and then we get the signal that we're sleepy. So for a period of time, we don't get the signal that we are sleepy.
Because it numbs it, because coffee
Yeah.
does it.
It blocks the receptor, so the receptor cannot tell the brain that we're sleepy. So it removes the signal of sleepiness.
So what is the last cutoff for me to drink coffee so I still can get my good night's sleep?
That's a good question. And I'm sorry to tell you that it's like, it depends. It depends. Like coffee in general has half-life of 5 to 7 hours. What does it mean, half-life? Like if you drink a cup of coffee, let's say 40 milligrams of caffeine, half 6 hours after, half-life means 6 hours after, there is half of that caffeine in your bloodstream. And the quarter life is almost 12 hours, 8 to 12 hours, right? So let's say if you drink a coffee at 10 a.m., right? 6 hours is 4 p.m. At 4 p.m., you still have half of the caffeine that you drink at 10 a.m.
Okay.
And at 8 p.m., you still have a quarter of that.
Oh.
And this metabolizing, like the half-life of coffee, it also depends on some genetics.
Yeah, some people
And
doesn't have that effect.
some people, they have like the enzymes that breaks the coffee faster. Some are slower. So some are more sensitive to coffee, some are less sensitive. So it varies. But a good rule of thumb would be like after 2 p.m., stop having any coffee.
2 p.m. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
And there are people who are saying like, I can drink coffee at night and can sleep, but there is still an impact on the sleep architecture. So when we dream, when we sleep, we have like some brain waves depending on different stages.
Yeah.
So those brain waves can be affected by caffeine, and you're sleeping, but you're not getting a restorative sleep.
Okay. So you talked about coffee. How about stress? How does that affect my sleep?
Okay. So stress, it impacts our hypervigilance system. So as I was saying, there are two systems involved in sleep. Is the sleep pressure, and the other is circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
And circadian rhythm is responsible with telling us when to sleep and when to be alert. And the circadian and the sleep pressure tells our brain is like, we're sleepy. Okay. And they are working in balance. Like when we are having enough sleep pressure, then the circadian rhythm knows to signal that we need to secrete melatonin and that it's time to sleep. And the other way around, like when the circadian rhythm says it's time to be alert and releases cortisol, then we are awake, right? So there is this beautiful balance. When it comes to stress, we have this hypervigilance system that overrides this, because think about it like from an evolutional perspective. If there was an animal, a predator that is coming to eat you, right, and to kill you, you don't want to say, hey, Mr. Tiger, come later because now it's time to sleep. No, your brain is wired to scan for the environment to see if there is any danger for your life and keep you awake. So it overrides the other system. Well, with the evolution, that was the tiger or like the wolf or whoever was the predator. But in today's modern world, deadlines, kids, money,
is the tiger.
All is the tiger. So our brain scans to see if there is danger, and we perceive all of this as danger and keeps us alert because we consider that it's not safe to be asleep. And that's how hypervigilance keeps us awake. We are exhausted, like we have enough sleep pressure. The circadian rhythm says it's time to sleep, but the hypervigilance says, no, you're in danger, so you have to be awake. So it's very hard to sleep when you're stressed, and that's how stress it's impacting our sleep. Like that's a very simplified.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what can I do to reduce that and get a good night's sleep in spite of having all this, which doesn't go away. It's still there.
Yes. And that's what I work with my clients, because like I help them recover the sleep and then prepare them for life, because stress is not going away. Kids is not going away. Basically, I'm teaching people how to get back into their body, to ground themselves and to tell their nervous system that they're safe, even if everything around them is like going to explode. Meditation is one of them. And being present, mindfulness, being present, some somatic practices, breathing. It's actually impacting the nervous system, and it helps us to be more into a parasympathetic state, which is the rest and digest. Journaling, looking at your thoughts, looking at your emotion, confront and preparing for them, processing emotion throughout the day. What happens, a big problem that we have nowadays is that we're so busy throughout the day that the first moment of stillness we have is when we go to bed. And throughout the day, we have so many emotion that we put down, so many thoughts that we are putting on the side, because like we don't have time to process them, right? And everything comes to the surface at night, and that prevents us from falling asleep. And one exercise that I like the most, and is so simple, you can do it everywhere, is to connect with all your senses. And connecting with all your senses is like, it's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So look at 5 things in the room and name it out loud. Let's say it's like a painting or a glass. So then 4 things that you hear, like noises, 3 things that you smell, 2 things that you taste. So you're connecting with the senses. And by being present in the body and connecting with the body, there is no safer way than the present moment. When we're thinking of the future, we are anticipating, we're getting anxious. Where we are thinking in the past, we are ruminating. So being in the present moment, it's where it is safe. And by using the body to ground yourself in the present moment, it's one way to tell your nervous system that you're safe. So that's one exercise that I love the most, because you can do it when you're driving, when you're in a meeting and you have like a panic attack, or like
5 things for senses. No,
for seeing.
4 senses.
4 things that you hear. Actually, 3 things that you can touch.
Oh, okay. 3 things.
That's
touching.
the tactile.
Okay.
2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste.
Oh, so using all the 5 senses.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So it grounds you in the body, brings you into the present moment. Breathing, it's another beautiful exercise, and simple. And people underestimate breathing. But basically, when we inhale, we activate the sympathetic or fight or flight part of our nervous system. When we exhale, we activate the parasympathetic branch of our nervous system, which is rest and digest. And doing exercises that focus on long exhale, it allows us to activate longer the rest and digest part of our nervous system. That's why, like, the breathing, either box breathing or 4, 7, 8. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold for 7 seconds, and then you exhale for 8 seconds.
Oh.
So that activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is helping you to get into that state of rest and calm.
Okay, that's nice.
So these are a few examples, but there are multiple ways that and depending on the situation that it's causing you stress, we can look at the tools that helps you to feel safer and to feel calmer, or how to react to stress.
Okay. So all these are backed by science, what you're saying.
Yes.
So what about the chatter that we have on the internet, like the scented candle, or, calm music, or maybe warm milk with some turmeric in it? These are not backed by science, but is there any truth to it?
I would be very careful with the advices on the internet nowadays.
Yeah.
There is some truth in some of them. but the impact more or less,
It's a hit and miss.
it's a hit and miss. But you know what it's very, very, very strong and powerful? Placebo. Placebo is
Thinking that it will
very
affect-
strong. And if you think that the water is going to, like,
Heal
warm
you?
water, it's going to heal you, and if it heals you, then drink water. Like, and I'm all for placebo, like, honestly, like, if it is placebo, as long as it's not like something that is making damaging on your body. Like, a lot of people who are taking sleep meds, there is actually not the sleep meds that they are helping them, because a lot of the sleep meds, you create tolerance, so they don't have the same impact, but people are still taking them because they believe that they're helping them. So placebo is very powerful, especially because we're working with our nervous system and, yeah, with our sense of safety.
I want to talk about insomnia, which
Okay.
is a conversation that people are scared to talk about because they don't want to be in that situation, right?
Yeah.
What is insomnia? Is it interrupted sleep, or is it no sleep at all for days?
That's a very good question, and I'm so glad you asked, because a lot of people say insomnia for any sleep problem,
Exactly,
and it's
right?
not.
Yeah.
There is insomnia. It's a disorder, and it has its own diagnostic criteria in medicine, and the criteria is either initiating sleep, like problem falling asleep, maintaining sleep, waking up in the middle of the night, or waking up not feeling rested. So it's any of that, for at least 3 nights a week, for at least three months in a row, and that has to be an impact on the day life.
Okay.
So you are either having issues with focusing, with emotional regulation, with
Productivity.
So it has to be a complaint, because insomnia is very subjective.
Okay.
There is no definition about a number of hours. You can sleep 8 hours and still be classified as having insomnia. There is actual something that it's called paradoxal insomnia, where people were swearing that they didn't sleep, they complaining about sleep, they were taking it to the lab, taking the test, and they were prove that they're sleeping, and they still did not believe that they're sleeping. So it's the perceived experience of sleep and or lack of sleep.
Is insomnia.
A lot of people with insomnia underestimate how much time they are asleep. So yeah, it's like at least 3 nights per week, at least 3 months, and there has to be a complaint. And there is another model that describes insomnia, and I like to add that because it explains how insomnia is created. So the model is called the 3P model of insomnia. And the first P is predisposition. There are some people who are more predisposed to some sleep issues. There may be more anxious. They have like some medical conditions. So they're more prone for having a short period of bad sleep. Then there is the precipitation, an event that is causing your bad sleep. Let's say you have an exam, you have a kid, you have a wedding. So it doesn't have to be a negative one. Like, even a positive experience can impact your sleep. And then there is the perpetuation. So even after the event that precipitated that problem, it's removed, you're engaging in behaviors, compensatory behaviors, because you're starting to be afraid. You are starting to stay longer in bed, trying to sleep for longer. You start taking sleep meds, or you start drinking more coffee. So you're engaging in some behavior that actually feeds your sleep problem. And the difference between other sleep problems and pure insomnia as a disorder, is that even if you allow your body to sleep and the stressor is removed, you still cannot sleep. So there are people where they have a stressor, and the stressor can be for years, right? And prevents them from falling asleep or like having a good sleep. Once that stressor is removed, they can sleep. Or let's say work is stressful, and when you go in a vacation, you can sleep. That's not insomnia, like based on the definition. People with insomnia, even when they go in vacation, they still have a hard time sleeping.
Oh, okay.
Because it's basically a fear of being awake. So it's an anxiety. It's very defined as their fear of sleep, of not sleeping, actually, of wakefulness.
Okay. So if someone who uses an alarm to wake up at a certain time every day, they are setting an alarm for, say, 6 hours or 7 hours. Does that mean to wake up with an alarm? Does that mean they're sleep deprived because they're not getting enough rest and their body is not waking up? And will that lead to this, insomniac state?
No, not really. Not necessary. Waking up with an alarm and not being able to, or like having a hard time waking up without an alarm at a specific time doesn't mean you didn't get enough sleep. So as I was saying, we sleep in 90-minute cycle. And each cycle has some deep sleep and some REM sleep and some light sleep.
Yeah.
If the alarm it's triggered when you are in deep sleep, it will be hard for you to wake up. So, and that will create grogginess, sleep inertia.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't get enough sleep, but you wake up in the middle of the cycle. That's one explanation. And a way to know if you got enough sleep is like, how do you feel throughout the day? Can you function without coffee? To answer your question, it's not necessary that waking up without with an alarm and not being able to wake up at a specific time without an alarm. That doesn't mean like you
Deprived of sleep.
Yeah, deprived of sleep.
Okay. So if I set enough time for me, like 8 hours, even if I wake up in between and I wake up with the alarm, I still can have a good night's sleep and I can say that I have had a good night of sleep.
And that if you feel like it, if you feel that you're fine,
Okay. What if after waking up, the whole first coffee in the morning, is that a sign of not getting enough sleep?
It doesn't mean that.
Okay.
So you can have a perfect sleep and still crave your coffee because you are used to have a coffee every morning and your body is anticipating that, wants that, and also chemically and biologically you're craving it.
Can we talk about generational or training our children to sleep? Because that's a conversation that people are having, right?
Yeah.
So our generation, we are hustlers. We try to get that 6 hours of sleep because that's a luxury now if we get 6 to 7 hours. So our children are watching us not get that hours of sleep. So this whole generational wealth or generational knowledge that we're passing down, are we also passing down this generational lack of sleep or this hustle culture to our children? Are they growing up seeing us? Sleep is not important.
Of course. This is, but when it comes to sleep problems, it's nature and nurture, right? Like if we have in family sleep problem, insomnia, that means like there might be some predisposition, as I was saying, for sleep issues, but it's not necessary. It's like having the gun, but if you don't pull the trigger, then it doesn't mean like
harmful. It's not harmful.
Yes. Yeah, exactly, like with cancer and other things that are genetically. But the environment matters a lot. The kids are mimicking what they see in the family, and they see if the family doesn't have like a schedule, like if the schedule is over the place, they will continue in life with that. How are you guys using the lights at night? If I know someone who was sleeping with the night on like the entire night, and the kids were doing the same, so they had like issues with sleep. And And then is the stress in the house, this financial situation. This can affect sleep and can be perpetuating in life. So, as with anything that the kids learn from us, yes, we can. They can learn behavior, sleep behavior, and mindset, and like how do we report to sleep. They can get that from parents.
So, what is a good environment for a child to sleep? Like a small, nice lamp, keeping the room as cool as possible. What else? What can we do to make sure they get their 9 to 10 hours of sleep?
I'm not a kid expert, and that's like outside of my expertise. Yeah. And there are specific sleep coaches for kids and toddler and newborns. The most important thing is safety. So the kids to feel safe, that the environment is safe, and sleep should not be used as a punishment. Like go to your room and sleep. So sleep should be seen as something that it's positive. Like we love sleep. We welcome sleep, and a bedtime story might help because like they're excited to like creating a routine that is making them excited and want to go to bed. And it's the same with stillness. Like we've been learned that going to a corner and stopping them to play, it's a punishment. Then later in life as adults, we learn that being still, it's something bad. And I see so many of my clients that when they have a moment of stillness, they feel uncomfortable. They have to do something. So when it comes to kids, I would say make them feel safe, make them to enjoy. To desire that bedtime, and not seeing as a punishment.
Okay. So you talked about adults who right now they are scared to stay still.
Yeah.
So when you see an adult from among your clients who come to you, do you see that there's an inner child in an expensive suit that comes to you who has been, in that situation where they've not felt safe, they didn't have a routine? Is that what is perpetuating as an adult?
There are, I had clients who had a very stressful environment from the childhood, that when they had to be vigilant to see if there is any violence or any danger, and prevent them from sleeping, or like at any noise they can wake up, because that's how they grew up and how they learn. But the problem that I'm seeing with the career people is that we've been learned that sleep is, I'm sleep when I'm dead. Sleep is a waste of time. It's sleep deprivation and lack of sleep is seen as a badge of honor. And it's like, I'm so busy that I don't have time to sleep. And instead of seeing sleep as a productivity tool, because like when we are sleeping, our memory is better, our creativity gets better, our health gets better, our energy gets better, and our productivity gets better. Like we are more productive after a night of good sleep than when we are sleep deprived. So work that you could do in 10 hours, if you have a good night of sleep, you can do it in 8. And you free some time, So it's that mentality that sleep is a waste of time. And I'm happy that I'm seeing that gradually it's changing, because we start understanding more about sleep. We all have an inner child inside us. We are all grown up children. And when we remove the suit, we are just humans.
Yes.
With human needs and human desires. Yeah, and often when I'm working with sleep problem, I'm working with the nervous system. Like, of course, there is the sleep drive, the circadian component, the behavior component, but feeling safety and feeling safe in our body, it's what is the hardest and most often issue that I'm seeing out there. And there is no wonder, like if you open the news, everything is dangerous. Everything is coming at us to kill us. So,
it's always fight and flight for us.
yeah.
Wow. What happens when we sleep? Can you
Oh, oh, there's so
lighten
many
the mood? Let's make it positive. What
So-
happens when we sleep?
For a lot of time, we thought that sleep is the absence of wakefulness. But sleep is a very active state. Is like our brain is more active than we are. There are some stages where it's more active than when we are awake. So basically, depending on the sleep cycle and the type of sleep, depending on the type of sleep, there are different processes that are happening in our body. So during deep sleep, tissue is being repaired. Immune system is being enforced. Memories are being created. So when we are awake, we accumulate information, but during the sleep, that's what Matthew Walker is saying. So when we are sleeping, basically we're taking the information that we accumulated in the short-term memory, and we are actually solidifying it in the long-term memory to have access over it. So basically, if we don't sleep, we forget things. We forget the things that we did in that day.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So if you're learning and you're having a night of sleep, the chances of remembering that information, it's way higher than if you didn't sleep.
So in order to remember better, you need to sleep, is what you're saying.
Yes. And beside the fact that we're moving the information from short-term memory to long-term memory, it also we make connection between the information. So we have saying like sleep on it. Why? Because when you're sleeping, your brain makes connection between things that you cannot access when you're awake. So you come with a solution, like you went to bed with a problem and you stayed for hours trying to fix it. You went to bed, had a good sleep, and then the next thing in the morning, you find the solution. How come? During the sleep, there are a lot of processes. Your brain makes connections between information and finds solutions. And REM sleep, that it's like a therapist for our emotion. Like we process emotion during REM sleep. That we cannot when we are awake. So there's so many things that are happening in our sleep. And one very important thing is the metabolic waste. Like when we are awake, there are a lot of metabolic processes that are happening in our body and in our brain. And only in sleep, our brain is being cleared of that metabolic waste. And if we are not sleeping, that builds up and we create diseases like Alzheimer and other cognitive issues.
Oh, wow. Okay. So sleep to get healthy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Wow. Amazing.
To get healthy, to be more productive, to have more idea, to be more creative. Yeah.
That's amazing. Is there a topic about sleep that your peers aren't talking about out loud that needs importance? Something that people are forgetting, the importance of sleep, or maybe something that they're doing that's affecting sleep?
Yeah. The problem that we are having nowadays is that we are trying to compensate for that mentality of I'm sleeping when I'm dead and sleep is a waste of time. But by doing that, we are creating another problem, that we are creating so much panic and stress around sleep. The problem with with sleep is that sleep does not reward effort. The more you try, the more it's harder to sleep. So,
could you elaborate on that? The more
yes.
I try to sleep,
yeah,
the more I don't sleep.
Yes, because your nervous system sees sleep effort as a danger and makes you alert. And people with insomnia, as I was saying, like they're perpetuating the insomnia because they try more and more and they become more anxious about not being able to sleep. As soon as you let go and accept that I can sleep, then you can sleep. So sleep is not seen as a danger. The problem is like we're putting so much hyper focus on sleep that people are trying to do more things. And in that,
Like melatonin patch and
yeah,
cutting down screen time and whatnot.
and tracking their sleep and focusing on numbers. How do I get 10 more minutes of REM sleep? How do I get 10 more minutes of a deep sleep? And that creates anxiety. And the anxiety backfires because it affects your sleep negatively. And there is one thing that it's called orthosomnia. It's like orthorexia. Orthorexia is like that hyper focus on eating perfectly. Orthosomnia is the disorder of like hyper focusing on getting the best sleep. So that's one of the biggest issue. And it's so hard because to some degree, I want to talk with those people who are like ignoring sleep, and I want to tell them how important sleep they are. But at the same time, I don't want to create that panic that you are going to die if you're not sleeping. I had a client, she went to emergency because she thought she's going to die. And that was like only after a few weeks of developing insomnia. And she started believing that her sleep is broken. She's broken. She cannot sleep anymore. And she was in such a desperate state that she went to ER. So you can easily flip on the other side of healthy, where the focus on health becomes the enemy.
Wow. Thank you so much. This conversation is going to help a lot of people out there, especially the ones who believe that I don't have to sleep. I'm a hustler.
Yes.
I'm very good at working without sleep.
Yes.
That's the culture that we have. Really, thank you, Ms. Reena McCurry. This has been an eye-opening conversation for me as well. Thank you so much for doing this.
I'm so happy that I was able to answer some of your questions. And if you ever have any question, I'm more than happy to come back or to answer you offline.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.